Hi, I'm Byron. Welcome to StepwiseRPA. In this video, I'm going to show you how to import a CSV file into a SQL Server database. In this case, I'm using SQL Azure, which is a cloud version of SQL Server. You can also use SQL Enterprise or the LocalDB, which you can download free from Microsoft. So really any current version of SQL Server should be able to perform these actions with StepwiseRPA. So let's jump in and see how easy it is to do this. From the bot manager, we're going to right click and create a new group, and I'm going to call it demos. It will be a folder for us to store these demo bots, and I'm going to click on that and click new to create a new bot. I'm going to give it a little shorthand name of DB01 and then import CSV data to SQL Server. Alright, notice that our file name is goofy looking, and so I'm going to right click on our new file over here and click reset file name to reset it to the same name as this. Notice that I need to click save because I haven't saved it yet, and there we go. It's going to go ahead and save that for us. Let's click edit to take us to the editor. Now, I'm not going to use all of the best practices for creating a bot here because I really want to show you the meat and potatoes of working with SQL Server in this, particularly importing data. So one thing I will do is do the outline of our bot, and there's going to be two pieces of that, and we'll do an Alt-L, which is log message. It's Alt-L will insert a log message step, and the first thing we're going to do is delete any existing data. So we're going to delete the existing data. Let's go over here and show you how to find that log message. Type in log, hit enter, and this is how I like to comment my code, and also to use the tree structure of building a stepwise bot so you can easily do your collapse and expands. Okay, so the second thing we're going to do is import that data, CSV data to database. All right. And the last thing we'll do is, well, we may or may not get to it, but we could easily come in and create a spreadsheet with the database data. All right, we may get to that if we've got enough time in this video. We'll see. So let's go ahead and clear that out and go to data, and you'll notice there are two items here that are SQL Server specific. MS, Microsoft SQL Server, these first two. This one is a generic action that allows you to run any SQL Server, any kind of query in SQL Server. Notice that I'm not putting this in error handling. Typically you would want to use error handling to be able to catch your errors if something failed and be able to notify the user of that. We're not following best practices here. So we're going to do a delete, and again, I'm not doing best practices, but I'm going to put in the server name instead of putting that into a variable where I could easily change it in the variable. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with our database name. We're going to use, you can use Windows authentication or SQL authentication. In this case, we're going to use SQL authentication, and I'm going to create a variable for the password. Passwords, you don't want to put the plain text into your field here because it would come out as plain text, and that's so you can see what the variable name is. But what you do want to do is use a secure text local in order to encrypt that password in the bot file so that nobody can look at the inners of your bot file and see what your passwords are. So I'm going to hit F2 there. I could have also gone up here to variables and click new, but by clicking inside of a field and hitting F2, you can come in and do password. I can hit tab, data type. I'm going to put this back in the center. Hit S, and that takes me to secure text local. You can see we've got a lot of different data types in here. Secure text local, secure store local. Secure text, you can only use those in password fields. So you can't put it into a message box and have that message box decrypt the secure text and show it to the end user. That would be an easy way to get around being able to keep things secure. So secure store, you can use that to encrypt it in the file, but you could use it in a message box if you wanted to, or a web type thing. Some places less secure. But we're going to do that, and let's go ahead and paste in. Don't have it in my clipboard. Let's come over here and grab it, and we're going to paste that in. I'm going to click OK. Notice that it went ahead and popped our password variable in here. I could have dragged and dropped it down like that, but there we go. No loop on variable here, so we're just going to do test. Notice we're connected. We're going to go to SQL Builder, and you'll see that we've got two tables inside of this database, and in order to use them we have to drag them into the query tables field. So let's drag it over here. You'll see that it put an _1. That turned that table name into an aliased query table name. So if I drag it again, so you can put it in there as many times as you want and use those as aliased tables. So let's just get rid of those extra ones. And here's our delete from table. We're deleting from this table, where you could do something like where ID equals 10, and you would just do that 1. But we're going to do all of the items in here, and so let's just do that. Okay, back here, notice I've got a run preview. If I do a run preview on any of these items except for raw SQL, it's going to turn these SQL statements into a select statement, so it won't actually do the delete. And this is a good way to look and see what you would be deleting before you actually try to run your SQL statement. So let's do run preview, and you'll see that we pulled back a bunch of data here, and it's only selecting down at the bottom left. You can see we selected 1,000 records. It automatically puts the select top at the top of it. So that's just an easy way to do that. You can do a little bit here. You can dump that out to a CSV file or whatnot. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this and run it. And let's see what happens. So here it's running our query. And again, we're going against Azure SQL, and there were 8,049 records in that database. And it's already deleted all of those. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. And let's do our run preview again, and we're back to 0. Okay, so now let's import that. And we're going to take and grab this import action and drag and drop it on step 3 here. Okay, so now we're going to, let's paste in our server. Again, you would want to put these into variables. And go ahead and pre-populate those variables over here. So if you look here, you can come in and pre-populate it instead of doing it into initializing over here. That way it will use the value of those variables in your development, so you can do the test and all of that. Okay, so I want to grab my username, and let's grab our password and put that here. Because we're using Azure SQL, I have seen in some cases where it can be a little slow, and if you're trying to upload or insert a bunch of records at one time, such as 10,000, which is the default batch size here, it can time out. A lot of times Azure SQL is running really fast, but I've got a very small sized subscription. So I'm going to make this 1,000 test, and we are connected. So now let's go look at our source file, and we're going to come out here and browse. Notice that I'm looking at Kaggle. Kaggle.com is a wonderful website that has data science competitions and various ways to learn about data science, and they also have some great data sets that are public domain as well, and that's what I've got in here, is a public domain data set. Okay, so we're going to, it does have headers in the first row. It is comma delimited, and I'm going to go choose that file again in order to get the fields and the field names and some sample data. That way we can be able to go to our mapping, and you'll see over here, I need to fix this, but you'll see that here are our fields, and we're going to map these into our table. So I'm going to select the table, load the fields, and now I'm going to start dragging and dropping. This is an identity field. You can't, SQL Server won't let you put something into that if it's an identity. So it's grayed out. So let's go to symbol, Just dragging these over. You can also use variables in here, or you can actually hard code a value into these fields. Notice this round lot size is an integer. I made a mistake when I created this database table, and I need to fix that to a float. But what you'll see over here is that they actually have sample data as 100.0. If you try to run that, it's going to say it's not an integer and it won't let you pull it in. So I'm just going to pull it down to this other field I've created. Test issue, financial status, CQS symbol, NASDAQ symbol, next shares, last traded date. I don't have a field for that, but I'm going to go ahead and just put in a date. And this is just to show you another function of variables. If I come up to this generic, which is included with all bots, it's just a placeholder that allows you to get at some of these functions without having to create a variable, a dummy variable. So I'm going to open up the date functions and grab today's date. So I can use that wherever I would use a variable. I'm just going to paste that in. I'm going to leave these other two fields blank. I'm going to click Save. And let's go ahead and run our bot here. And let's pull this over and make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to click twice on that. Don't double click it, just click it twice. That way you can see it as it's walking through its steps. You can see that we're importing 1,000 rows at a time here. All right. We're on batch number 3, batch number 4. As I said, Azure SQL can run a little slow depending on the size of your subscription, how big the database you've got going, and also various other things, the connectivity and whatnot. So it's going pretty good tonight. I've seen it go faster, but we're almost there. We had 8,049 rows, and we are about to crack 8,000 here. And there we go, and there was the last 49 that came through. Okay, our bot's complete. And let's go and look back at our step number 2 here. And we're going to run the preview on this again. Remember, it's going to turn it into a SQL statement, a select statement. And you can see we've got this. Let's go ahead and do one more thing here. Get SQL, and you'll notice that it's got delete stock symbols there. And I'm just going to change that to select star, and this is a select, so when it's select, it's going to actually try to run and return that data table here. So I'm going to click run, and down here at the bottom you'll see that it's pulled back 8,049 records. It's populating those in here. It should, maybe it's already done. Yep, okay, 8,049 records. All right, so that's the end of this. I didn't get to the last piece of it there, but we'll do that in another video. Hope this has been informative. It's very easy to use StepwiseRPA to import and work with data in SQL Server. Hopefully you'll give StepwiseRPA a try and see how easy RPA can be. Hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you later.